All right, so the rest of this series, we're going to go series by series of all of the series that we've done. So the number one thing that we started with, and it's the number one thing that holds DFS players back from getting better, is learning how to manage your bankroll. So there's so many bad advices out there. You know, most importantly, the 80-20 rule of bankroll management. Like, if you're still doing that, stop immediately. You've got to figure something else out. So I like to joke around. I am the unofficial Guinness World Record holder of time spent talking about bankroll management for DFS, because it's so important. I did over an hour on it earlier this year. It's still applicable. There's a worksheet that goes with this. If you can't get ahead of in DFS and you're just blowing money and your wife's getting pissed at you, or this is something unhealthy, you're not managing your bankroll properly. Like, you can't move up. You don't know how to move up. You're not managing your bankroll properly. It's really that simple. So I've got. And I'm biased because I created it, but like, I've shared this with other people. And again, it's a guide. It's not, biblical truth, but it's something to put in place to help you start learning how to grow your bankroll. So I highly encourage you, don't skip anything. Like, if there's one thing you watch start to finish, please make it this one. So it's a 5-part series, and then I did a 6-piece of how to actually record your results and work the worksheet that goes with this. And I'll include the worksheet, the link to the Google Sheet in the show notes for this. But most important thing, if you can't manage your bankroll, you're never going to have any success at DFS. After that, the number 2 thing that we always talk about is putting in the work. So how do you put in the work? What does that mean? Well, you've got to learn how to play the game. It doesn't matter how much you know about sports. Some of the best, the most educated people that I know about what they know about sports are not very good DFS players. I know the most about football than any other of the other sports, and it's the sport that I've struggled the most with DFS because I have so many biases and I don't know how to play the game. I know about the sport, I don't know how to play the game. I'm getting a little bit better. Hopefully this is a breakthrough year for me, but how we study and who we learn from is very, very important. So there's a handful of tools that you can use to go back and study your own strategy. What are the other players doing? How do I back test? People are always like, how do I build a process? Well, go back and watch these videos. These videos will show you how to build a process. How do I know if I have a good process? Well, if you start winning and you're starting to be profitable, you're doing it consistently, you might have a good process. And at that point, we just want to build up the sample size and continue to see if we can, if you start out, hey, the first goal I ever had is I wanted to never have to make a deposit ever again. So I cleared out all but $1,000 to dedicate to DFS, and I became a better DFS player overnight because that money had to last, or I was going to quit. So that's when everything changed for me, and then that's when the professional mindset started to happen and the professional approach versus the amateur. But here's a handful of things that we've done, and everything that we're covering is going in chronological order. So if you don't know where to find these, go to the bankroll management and work backwards. Baseball. I did 2 different series on baseball. People be like, I got another message over the weekend. Hey, I see you all the time at the top of these contests. Like, show me how to play. And it's like, I will help you. Did you watch the videos? No. Okay, well, I'm giving this away for free. So, it's an insult to anybody that's just basically taking their time to help you out when you haven't exhausted the resources that they like. I don't have to put this stuff out. So if you're not getting better and you're not watching it, why am I going to give extra time to help you? Now, if you've put in the time and you're still not getting it, okay, now we can work together. But I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. So, put in the time. This is everything. There's going to be 3 themes that we talk about through all of these series. Everything that you guys will see about anything I do is managing your bankroll, developing a process, putting in the time to make that happen, and then having the patience to see it through and not skipping around and bouncing from one expert to the next. It's not that complicated. DFS at its core is a very, very simple game. But you have to humble yourself to, admit that you're not God's gift to sports and start learning and start respecting the craft. So we've got 1 baseball series. And if that's too complicated, I went back and did a follow-up episode the following week on an additional baseball series. So again, everybody tries to make things more complicated. True genius is taking a complicated subject and making it as simple as possible. So some of the people, when I put out the initial baseball content, was like, wow, this is so much. I'm kind of drowning here. And so I don't want to go further on that. Let's back it up. Let's make it simpler. So everything in this video series is the absolute simplest ways Keyword simple, the absolute simplest ways to learn baseball. Not the best, not the only, the simplest. So if you don't have a baseball foundation, or you've been sucking at baseball, or you've been losing the whole first half of the year, or you're still not winning, go back to this series. Everything you need to learn about baseball, the core principles are here. Then you take that and you start doing your back testing and your studying. So everything's going to work together. There's a method behind all of the madness of everything that we put together on the page. 20 max contest. How to attack them, how to approach them. That's a question that I get quite a bit. So now that we know how to play baseball, how can we attack it in such a way where we can win, number one, but how can we spread out our variance? So my approach to 20 max contest is probably different than anybody else other than a guy like Asano. I basically took what he did and made it my own. And this video series covers all of that, almost an hour of content about different approaches for contests and how to go about mastering those, because everything is about mastery. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So that's why we talk about playing every day, playing every slate. The more that you're doing it, the better you're going to get, the faster you're going to get. There's plenty of players who've been playing longer than I have, but I've passed them because I'm playing every day, I'm playing every slate. And if you don't have a big bankroll or a big process, you can outwork everybody. And that's what I'm trying to show you guys how to do, is how to put in that work. Fantasy Cruncher Pro. This is one of my favorite tools. I've spent the first half of the year talking about every single tool that I use, and I'll get questions like, hey, John, I've seen you talk about Fantasy Cruncher and SaberSim and Daily Roto, and we covered this on the podcast. I'm the business owner. These are my consultants. These products are my consultants. I am hiring them to do a job for me that I do not have time to do. So I just imagine I'm in the boardroom, going back to my boy Thomas and Kawhi Leonard, the board man gets paid. If we want to get paid, we have to sit at the head of the board in the boardroom. We have to be the board man. So Fantasy Cruncher is my optimizing consultant. I like the projections from SaberSim and Daily Roto more. Not taking anything away from Fantasy Cruncher, it's just what I'm more comfortable with. I will download them from one of those two sites depending on the sport, upload to Fantasy Cruncher, and then build. So this is a product that I get questions like, yeah, I'm still building on Fantasy Labs or Line Star app or Roto Grinders, and it's like, I don't use any of those products. I've used Fantasy Labs in the past. I'm no longer using it because I get a better user experience from Fantasy Cruncher. Roto Grinders, Line Star app, some of those other products, I don't have any experience using, so I can't help you. And I just know that, hey, if the best in the world are using this product, if I can learn how to use it, I can become a better player. And so much of DFS is just learning how to use this one tool. So hopefully there's everything in here to make you dangerous enough to learn how to do it. So now when you're learning how to play the game, we're learning how to approach the contest. We're learning how to, start using some of these advanced tools to get better at the game. And that leads us into sample size. We're building our process. Everything I've done, it's like I'll tell people, go and do this. How do I do it? It's like, dude, I literally laid it out step by step for you to do it. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I don't know how more plain and simple I could have made some of this stuff. So either you're not watching the videos or you're cutting corners. And we talked about that in the past. You can't cut corners at this. You've got to put in the work. Building up your sample size. I'm coming off the worst stretch of my DFS career, about a $3,000 downswing over 2 weeks, and that was really difficult. And I'm here at the All-Star break. Part of my personal review this week is what went wrong. What did I do? Is it variance? Because that could be the case in baseball. Baseball is a very home run dependent sport. Am I not winning because I'm not on teams getting enough home runs? Am I not finding enough runs to win the slate? Yeah, that was definitely part of the issue. Was I doing some knucklehead amateur stuff? As good as I've become and as much as I've tried to be as professional as possible, the temptation and the thirst is very real to do amateur stuff. I still struggle with it. I don't rail in these videos against you guys. I do it to myself. I'm telling myself in these videos why I need to cut that crap out. And it's almost always a downswing is made worse by doing amateur crap. And I did some amateur crap over the last couple of weeks that resulted in probably an extra $1,500 of losses. So a $1,500 losing week, that's pretty common. That's not that big of a deal. A $3,000 losing, streak, that's uncommon. And the culprit was very clear once I started looking at what went wrong. That's why we want to build up the sample size. So when I'm going back and I'm looking at my sample size of what hasn't gone right the last couple weeks for baseball, I'm able to see, hey, you know what? That was a pretty poor run, but compared to the rest of my sample size, that's not very accurate of how things should go. Now, past performance is never a perfect indicator of future results, but it at least helps us, what we were talking about with the David versus Goliath, like you're too close to the problem, you build up your sample size, and you can take a step back, and you can see the whole forest, and all of a sudden, it's not that big of a deal, or your losing streak wasn't that bad. And I went back, and I looked at my losing streak, and it was about, if you take out some of the dumb crap that I did, it was about an $1,800 losing streak over $1,800 losing streak over 50 slates the last 2 weeks. If you do the math, that's $36 a slate. So I'm sitting here tripping over losing $2,000 because that's a lot of money. But we look at it and it's like, I ran so bad, but I really only lost $40 a slate. I'm like, dude, we can make that back up in one day. Like, we're good. That's what your sample size will help you to determine. That's why you need to be putting in the work to learn and putting in the work every single day. And that's why we talk about in some of the videos. One of the first things I do every single day is download my CSV from DraftKings. I can look at every single contest that I've played in ever since I started acting and being a professional the last 3 years. And I can tell you within a penny of any dollar amount, my profit or loss of any sport, any contest, winner take all, micro booster, mini max, within a penny, and then within a tenth of a percent, not just a percent, a tenth of a percent, I can tell you my ROI and my cash rate for all of those contests. So that's how we're putting in the work. That's how we're doing the little extra, finding that little extra edge to beat our competition that isn't putting in the work. And it's one of those things that DraftKings is very, very clear. If you sign up for a contest on DraftKings, there is a disclaimer that says 90% of the people that play on DraftKings are not winning players. 10% of the players playing on DraftKings are winning players. And I would venture to guess that only 10% of the people playing on DraftKings are actually analyzing their results after they play in them. So if 10% are analyzing the results after the fact to get better, and 10% of the people are winning, it's like two of these things look alike. One of these things are not like the others. So if you're not doing this kind of work, that's a pretty big culprit of why you could be losing, or why you're not having the kind of results that you want, or why you found my page. Like, I joke around, like, nobody found my page because things are going well. Like, if you're here, something bad happened. So we're here to help correct some of the things that haven't worked in the past to get you on a better path. So we'll wrap up this segment of the video, and we'll dive into some other things to take a look at to review and get better over the break.